Hello everyone, my name is Liu Yi. I'm an assistant professor in economics. I'm from School of International Trade and Economics in Jufi. Today I'm going to talk about Chapter 9, Trade Policies in the Developing and Developed Countries. South Korea foreign trade policy is separated and displayed in two videos. In this video, we will continue the trade policy of South Korea. In the second video, I will demonstrate the detailed policy measures of South Korea in physical, financial, trade, and so on during 1960s and 1980s. After watching this video, you will have a clear understanding of what roles this policy played in South Korean industrialization. Finally, we will discuss the problems of export expansion and summarize this section. To begin with, I will discuss an important question. What is the role of the government in export expansion? These roles include, first, making strategic exchange rate devaluation policy to provide domestic companies an advantage in comparative price. Second, to protect and incubate domestic national industries by providing protection and the initial investment in the private and public sector. Third, to provide physical and financial incentives for export promotion. Fourth, to promote export through government's exhibition networks. In the rest of the video, we will talk about the importance of these policies one by one. First, exchange rate policy. An important instrument of government is strategic exchange rate devaluation. South Korea implemented periodic exchange rate devaluation. A periodic exchange rate devaluation policy is a crawling peg exchange rate system. It is to maintain a stable real effective exchange rate against US dollar, but allow the Korean won to devaluate gradually. For the short run, the Korean won is pegged on US dollar. In the long run, Korean won devaluates against the dollar. This policy not only provides a stable environment for South Korea's external and internal market, but also provide domestic-made producers advantage in the international markets for the long run. Nevertheless, a big problem of this policy is that the devaluation consumes the foreign reserve as time goes by. Exchange rate in South Korea has been devaluating against the dollar and Chinese yuan. For example, in 1964, exchange rate of Korean won is 300. In 1973, it became 400. In 2014, it increased to 1,000. From Figure 1, we see that nominal exchange rate of Korean won is devaluating against the dollar from 1962 to 1970. Korean won devaluated for 4 times. South Korea could achieve economic success not because of its abundance of import protection. Contrarily, protection is emphasized especially at the beginning of export expansion. South Korean government initiated several measures to create import barriers. It includes prohibited list of goods. At the beginning, they used a negative list to restrict the import of certain goods. Later on, a positive list was used to replace the negative list as trade restriction was reduced. Other instruments were also used, such as import quota and tariff. From Table 1, we could see that level of protection after the initiation of export-oriented industrialization and trade expansion. There was a heavy protection in imported products. However, the level of the protection varies. There are 4 levels of protection in import restriction: very high level, low level, and very low level. First, high level. There is a higher level of protection for manufactured goods when the production of that goods was just introduced domestically. Second, low level. If the products are in need but not produced domestically, levels of protection is lower. Third, very low level. Level of protection for raw materials, capital, and intermediaries are very low. Fourth, very high level. Levels of protection for the consumer goods is very high. In addition, tariffs on luxury goods are also very high, since they are now deemed to beneficial to the economy. What is more, import quotas are also used as an important barrier. For example, to encourage domestic production in machinery industry, the government began to restrict import of machinery using quotas in 1960s. What is more important is that this quota is initiated immediately upon initiation of domestic production. Fiscal and financial policies are also emphasized in South Korea. South Korean government provided 10% tax reduction to those companies who use domestic produced machinery. Active investment promotion in the machinery sector provided a bias for future growth. In the meanwhile, it provides tax relief and tariff reduction to domestic manufacturing sectors who need imported inputs for exporting. The South Korean government also provided incentives for the import of certain essentials for industrialization, such as machinery. The implicit tariff for many industries is negative. For example, metal working processing, textile machinery, industry machinery, etc. What is more, exporters enjoy discount interest rates. The interest rate is much cheaper for the companies who needs to finance export. On average, interest rate for exporters is less than half of that for the domestic non-exporting manufacturers. In the rest of the video, we will discuss the important government institutions in South Korea according to their functions. There is a cluster of institutions providing subsidized loan. For example, Korean Development Bank, Export-Import Bank of Korea, Technology Development Corporation, National Investment Fund. Another cluster of institutions provides opportunity for domestic companies to exhibit their products to the world, such as Korean Trade Promotion Corporation, or KOTRA. KOTRA is a non-profit organization established in 1962 with 80 branches worldwide. An important role of KOTRA is to promote research and trade. It also helps to demonstrate Korean products to the world and help foreign businessmen to seek for Korean products. KOTRA sponsors the Korean Exhibition Center and Seoul International Trade Fair. Korean Trade Association is another important trade expansion institution. It runs the World Trade Center in Seoul and provides backup to thousands of members companies. In South Korea, the role of export promotion is played by different institutions. Among them, Ministry of Commerce, Trade, and Industry played the major role. It sets annual export targets for officials connected with export administration. If the targets are not going to reach, government should exert irresistible pressure on businessmen to accelerate export, and also help the government to innovate new subsidy measures. The export-oriented industrialization is not perfect. We should know its pros and cons of this policy. The first disadvantage of export-oriented industrialization is it builds up foreign debt. In addition, it stimulated inflation in South Korea and widened income disparity among rural and countryside. Facing these problems, during the end of the 1980s, a series of stabilization policy was implemented by South Korea government, including structural adjustment to restore the balance of payment, removing subsidy and preferential policy loans, making rapid growth more harmoniously in private sector, and make export financing less wasteful. Since then, government pays more attention to welfare-oriented social development. Finally, government changed its role from winner-picker to a referee in the market. In the end of this video, let's recall what we have learned. First, South Korean trade policy is remotely different from the trade liberalization as defined in classic textbook. The strategy of South Korea's trade policy is apparently not fully trade liberalization nor fully trade protection. It is a combination of protectionism and neo-mercantilism. Government pushes for export while advancing development with import substitution. Second, greater protection is needed in the early stage of development. Third, government initiative is important in capital-intensive sectors, particularly when the private sector are weak because of the development of these industries are highly dependent on imported capital goods. Finally, plant management industrialization and trade liberalization is emphasized in development. Trade policy and industrial policy are cautious and calculating. That is the end of this video. Thanks for your watching.